Hello, everybody. My name is Avery, and welcome to the first episode of the Beyond the Pill podcast. I have a lot of ideas for this podcast, but for the first video on this channel, other than my reels from being in news and all of that, I want to talk about some stories that I found on Reddit. This is just going to be one of many different things that we're going to be doing here on this podcast. So if you like the content, be sure to hit that like button, subscribe if you're new, be sure to hit that notification bell so that you are always staying up to date with everything that we are doing, because I plan on growing this as much as I possibly can. So these are a few pharmacy stories that someone told on Reddit. For those of you new to this channel, although I'm so used to saying that from a channel I did years and years ago, but obviously this is the first video of that channel. I actually have roughly about 10 years of pharmacy technician work. I'm not just a registered technician, but I'm also a nationally certified technician. So basically that means that anywhere in the United States I can go and work and be a pharmacy technician and all of that. So cumulatively, even though I've done it on and off for several years, I have roughly about 10 years of experience in the pharmacy field, and I pretty much almost all my family has been in the medical field. So there's a lot of medical background that you are dealing with when you're talking to me. So let's go through some of these medical stories and sit back and relax and enjoy. I really want this podcast to be something that you can listen to while you're, going for a run. Maybe you're at work and you want something to listen to in the background. Maybe you're gaming, anything like that. So let's dive on into this here. So this person says, I used to work as a pharmacy technician, which means I handled both prescriptions and rang up everyday shopping items for customers. That's pretty standard if you're a pharmacy technician. It was a combo hell. It very much can be. Here are some of the stories. Let's start off with story number 1. We had a regular that was HIV positive. Super nice, but also a bit mentally disabled. His mother often brought him to the store or just picked up his meds for him. However, one day he came in without her and we exchanged our normal pleasantries. He said he needed a refill. I said I needed a new prescription, but he pulls it out of his wallet and I see that his finger is bleeding. It looked like a paper cut. He takes out his prescription with said bleeding finger and attempts to hand it to me. Normally, policy is to hold a customer until you are done running the script in case insurance feels like making this job extra awful. Yeah, sometimes insurance can be a bit of a pain. Clearly, this person did not enjoy working as a pharmacy technician. Sometimes it can be an issue, but it usually isn't unless they have some off-the-wall plan. Instead, I say while typing, "Oh no," person's name, "it looks like you cut yourself. Just put the script on the counter here and take a bandage," which I don't hand to him, but instead place on the counter. Normally rude, but ... Yeah, no, you're not going to touch someone's bleeding hand. Especially ever since COVID. If you ever notice, if you drop off a prescription, sometimes the pharmacist or the pharmacy technician won't touch it. If they do, they might put on a glove. But not everybody cares like that. If it's me, I'm just going to take the script, I'm going to run it through, and I'm just going to wash my hands later. We'll call you when the script is ready. He just smiles, says thanks, puts on the Band-Aid, and walks away. I smile until he disappears behind an aisle and then tell the pharmacist what just happened. In the end, we cleaned it up, and my manager actually called his mom. His mom apologized. She was sick, and he had wanted to run errands on his own. I guess she explained to him that he can't bleed on public things because he apologized profusely the next time he came in with her. Yeah, it's a good thing that you didn't touch that then, because you'd have to go through this whole policy of if someone's HIV positive, which she didn't explain how the person was HIV positive. I guess the person told them or something, or maybe they found out later. But there's this whole policy typically that you have to go through when you're dealing with someone that's HIV positive. We actually had someone who was giving a flu shot, and something happened where they were putting the equipment away and they actually stuck themselves. So because of the HIV, possible AIDS policy and all that, they ended up having to go over to the ER that was nearby where I was working at the time. And they had to get tests done, go on an antibiotic and the whole thing. Luckily, the person that had gotten the flu shot wasn't HIV positive, but the technician had to go through this whole rigmarole, and it really makes the day much harder, especially at the time. We didn't have a lot of help at that particular pharmacy. Second story, our duties board is posted in a place that customers can see it. So a duties board, I read these in advance, but essentially what this person made it sound like is that their duties board is essentially like their schedule. So what some pharmacies have done that I've noticed over the years is that they will slap up on a wall everybody's schedule, and then you can see who's working and maybe dread it or maybe be excited for it. But it's just a way to know when everybody's working on what days, what needs coverage, things like that. Typically, typically you keep that in a place where no one else can see it customer-wise. You've always got to be paranoid about what may be going through someone's head. I have noticed that far too often. Our duties board's posted in a place that customers can see it. This means if they feel like being creepy, they can tell when you start work, get off work, or take a lunch break. That is why you keep it out of customers' eyes. I had one older gentleman look at my name tag, then at the board. Then he said, "I'll be waiting for you at 9 p.m., then winked and walked away. The assistant manager walked me to my car that night." If you were to ask anybody that has ever worked with me in a pharmacy setting, they would tell you I am the most paranoid person when it comes to working with the public. It doesn't even have to be a pharmacy. It could be any job where you're working with the public. Maybe you're working as a bagger or a cashier at a grocery store. Maybe you're working at Walmart dealing with the public, wherever the case may be. I am the most paranoid when it comes to something like that because you don't know what's going through people's heads. They may come back with a weapon. They may come back to antagonize you. Anything like that. Especially in today's day and age, you have to be really careful of things like that. So move that duties board to a place where customers can't see it, or patients, whatever you want to refer to them as, and make sure that you are safe. Because I have had too many instances, not personally, but stories I've heard that have just made me paranoid over the years, where you got to be careful when it comes to things like that. You don't want to risk having someone knowing your schedule when you're getting off, especially knowing what car you drive. So some food for thought there. Another older gentleman came up to pick up his Viagra. I love the fact that the person telling this story, it still makes me laugh, that they just come straight out and say, yeah, it's Viagra. Okay. That stuff is expensive. Yes, it is. So most men only get a few pills at a time and refill as necessary. So here's something interesting I've noticed over the years with Viagra. A lot of insurances don't cover Viagra/Cialis. And the reason I've seen from a lot of insurance companies is because of the fact that it's considered a medication that is not something that's mandatory to take. They almost consider it like I guess you'd call it like a lifestyle pill. I forget the proper name for it, but essentially, like if you were to go get Botox, that wouldn't be something that your insurance would necessarily cover because it's considered like a lifestyle change or something like that. So yeah, it's very interesting to see that most insurance companies don't cover, at least in my experience. That stuff's expensive, so most men only get a few pills at a time. Refill is necessary. This man said, "My wife and I don't do it that often anymore. Maybe one of these pills has your name on it." Okay. No, you stick a magnifying glass on that pill and you say no. I guess I forgot to read this one because this one doesn't look familiar. I read some of these in advance. This person replied with, "No, I'm pretty sure they just say Pfizer on one side and VGR100 on the other. Sorry." Then I walked away. That's a good answer. That's a really good answer. And it's interesting because obviously I've never had something like that happen to me because I'm a guy. But something to add along with that, it's so interesting to see the differences between how men are treated in the pharmacy and how women are treated in the pharmacy in the sense of patients, right? Like, I am a nationally certified technician. I'm not a pharmacist. I wear my smock. I'm not wearing the white doctor's jacket looking thing. Clearly, I'm not a pharmacist. I don't look the part as a doctor. People constantly assume that I'm the doctor, that I'm a pharmacist. And I'm like, I appreciate that, but I'm not a pharmacist. There are some questions I can answer, and there are some things I know the answer to, but by law, I can't answer those questions because I'm only a pharmacy technician. But it's nice to know, and in some few cases, I'm not joking, I actually have more knowledge than the pharmacist, which has been crazy. That will be a different story that we tell in a different episode. Next story here. One lady comes up to buy a behind-the-counter cold medicine. I say to her, "Can I see your driver's license, please?" And the lady says, "No." And then she replies, kind of off guard, "I need it to sell you the medicine." So the reason why that you would need some over-the-counter cold medicine is because a lot of times, whenever you walk up to a pharmacy, the things that you see, what I'm going to call behind the counter, meaning like maybe if like say the register is like right in front of the technician and then behind them is like Plan B, different pills, cold medicines, things like that, all that has Sudafed. So you need your driver's license, present it to the technician or to the pharmacist so that they can ring you up for that. You have to do that by law because Sudafed back in the day, when you didn't need to present that, dudes were using it to make meth. So you have to present that. This person responds with why, and the technician responds with state law. And then the person again responds with why. I hate these kind of interactions, side note, when people just want to constantly be like, why? Like, I don't have to do that. Why? I don't make the rules. And on a side note from that, I know I keep going on a tangent here, but this is because I've experienced these things for years. So I can I could write a book about it. But anytime these interactions happen, I almost always just get the pharmacist, because as a technician, you could tell the person the correct answer. The person's not going to want to hear it. And then you have to grab your boss, the pharmacist, and then they tell the same answer. And then you're just at a stalemate. It's absolutely ridiculous. I don't know why it happens. I don't know if they're just in denial. But yeah, I hate these kind of interactions. So the person responds with why. She was well into her 40s, so I'm not sure why she was mimicking a toddler. The technician responds with, because some of the ingredients can be used to make illegal drugs, meth. The lady says, like what? Oh, well, the technician responds with meth. The lady responds with, I don't make meth. Can I have it now, please? That doesn't matter. Maybe the person next in line wants to make meth, sweetheart. I don't know. I mean, it's a lady, so I'm sure someone's going to make a joke in the comments that, like, this person's clearly a Karen, and, like, yeah, pretty much. But why can't people just be normal humans when coming to a pharmacy? Like, if you're not feeling well, we get it. We feel bad for you, but help us help you. Just be respectful, be kind, and just do what we ask you to do. I don't think it's that difficult of a thing. So the technician responds with, no, I still need a driver's license. Then this lady asked for the manager. I got the pharmacist, and she had nearly the exact same conversation with her. What did I just say? You get your boss and tell them the exact same thing. The lady ended up just leaving. To this day, I still think she was screwing with us. Maybe, because I don't know why this Karen of a woman would constantly ask you why, unless, like, I don't know, maybe she had her phone on record and she was trying to get some clicks on TikTok or something. Next story, my favorite story. There was a doctor in the area that had a couple of his prescription pads nicked, so they were probably like stolen. All the pharmacies were on alert. He had already agreed to call in any prescriptions until he could get new pads made. A prescription pad is basically like, it's a piece of paper and you fill out the patient's information, and then you can, put the directions for the prescription and what prescription or what drug it is on the prescription. That's really all that it is. Well, a couple comes in, and not to judge, but they were the rattiest, dirtiest couple I have ever seen. No, that's not judging. That's a fact. There are a lot of patients that I have met while working in the pharmacy that smell like they haven't showered in 2 months. And that is why I'm not an immunizer. A lot of people have told me, being an immunizer is easy. It's easy. With my luck, the first person I get would not have showered in 3 months, and they're going to smell like the back end of a barn. No, thank you. So this person goes on to say, they actually had dirt on them and smelled like they hadn't bathed in weeks. Yeah, same thing. Gives me a prescription for a class 1 controlled substance I had never seen and filled in my 3 years of working there. We always had a bottle stock, but I never saw us actually fill a prescription for it. This was my first red flag. Then I get to the doctor's name, and it's just a scribble, not really uncommon. So I go to the typewritten section and realize it's for the doctor that had his prescription pad stolen. I tell them I'm sorry, but I can't fill the prescription. I don't give them a reason why. I hadn't thought this through yet. So they say, okay, and instead of leaving, pull out a second prescription, but for a simple class 3 controlled jug. This time, I just take the prescription, smile, and say, I'll call you when it's ready. Instead, I called the cops. So clearly, this couple had stolen those pads and were writing prescriptions for themselves. What they mean by class 1 and class 3, there's different classes of drugs for medications. So, like, let's say you go and get Ambien, generic name for it is Zolpidem. It's a sleeping medication. That's considered a class 4 controlled substance. And each class has different types of regulations. So a class 1, if I remember correctly, is stuff like marijuana, where you have to be a certain certification, and I don't even think pharmacies, depending on the pharmacy, can even fill a class 1 controlled substance. Like if you go to, like, say, Walmart pharmacy, they're not going to fill a class 1 controlled substance unless, like, for whatever reason in your local state, oxycodone is considered a class 1, because then, yeah, a pharmacy could fill oxycodone, but that's considered a class 2. But class 1 is stuff like marijuana, I'm pretty sure. So I don't know how a pharmacy could be filling that unless it's like some sort of I don't know, different type of corporate pharmacy, or they're like a mail order pharmacy or something. So yeah, good on this technician for calling the cops, which I'm shocked that this technician had to deal with that whole fiasco and like the pharmacist didn't step in, because something like this happened, I would have had the pharmacist deal with it, but that's just me. Finally, my last story, which shows that sometimes it's not the customer that is the jerk. I read this one in advance. It's actually really sad. It's a pharmacy. We sell Plan B. If you're over 18, you don't need a prescription. No, you don't. So I'm working prescription drop-off. The pharmacist is mixing up a compound. Oh, those are fun. Compounds are horrible. And my least favorite coworker is working prescription pickup. It's late, so it's just the three of us. I had no customers, so I'm just filling the next day's orders when a lady walks up to the pickup area. She's a good 30 feet away and very quiet, so I can't really hear what she says. Apparently, my coworker couldn't hear her either, because she goes, "What?" The customer speaks up, and all I hear is Plan B. I know my coworker hates all birth control, but what she does next is mortifying. Lady mumbles something and says Plan B. And then just mumble. The coworker says, "Oh." She looks at me and opens her mouth. Me thinking, "Don't do it. Don't you dare do it." The coworker starts yelling, "This lady wants some Plan B. Will you take care of it? I won't fill a baby-killing drug." Wow. You gotta keep your personal motives out of your work life, whether that's politics, sports, religion, Plan B opinions. Could you imagine how embarrassed a woman would be if she had that kind of interaction? I feel like that's almost kind of a lawsuit waiting to happen. You probably can't get sued for that, but I'm a very paranoid individual when it comes to medical stuff. Like, I'm dotting every I and crossing every T. That is a terrible interaction. That's rough. There is a loud clanging as the pharmacist drops her pestle. So a pestle, I'm assuming that she means like a type of pill counter. Because typically how pills are counted is like you have a tray and you have like a little spatula, not like a cooking spatula. It literally looks like just a flat knife and you count pills. So I'm assuming that this is what the person means. The customer begins to cry and I'm just standing there jaw open. Yeah, I'd be standing there jaw open too. But I would also be reprimanding my technician. And I say my technician because where I've worked, we would all just refer to each other as my technician. Like, that's just something. But I would be reprimanding that technician as if I was a manager, because that's just embarrassing. You know, imagine if it was like someone's Viagra, or imagine if it was someone's chemo meds. Like, you don't do that. Like, you got to be professional. Like I said, you got to put your opinions of things aside and just work, regardless of what like a patient may say to you. You need to just maintain your professionalism, unless, which my bosses have given me in the past, your boss gives you free reign to handle a situation however you want, good or bad. And I'm glad that my managers have given me that authority in the past, because it's delicious to tell someone, "No, I'm not doing this. You need to leave if you keep acting out." And you may think, "Oh, well, Avery, you just said you're a technician." Some managers don't want to deal with that. Like, they don't like conflict. I don't like conflict either, but I also don't want a patient pulling out a weapon on me. So you need to go. The pharmacist could not control herself. She yells my coworker's name and brings her into the back room. I take care of the crying customer and get her a gift card that more than pays for the Plan B. I apologize profusely and she leaves, no longer crying, but obviously upset. My coworker comes out upset and angry, but she returns to her job. About 40 minutes later, I'm off for the night, so I clock out. I walk from behind the counter to the pickup section, look at my coworker and go, "I need to pick up a prescription." Pause. It's my birth control. It's not Plan B, but she hates it too. She turns red, looks at the pharmacist, who's just like, "Nope," and then gets me my prescription. That was her last week. Overall, always be professional and treat people with kindness in the pharmacy. Treat people with kindness in a hospital. Treat people with kindness in a nursing home. Whatever it is that you are working, because you don't want to be like that coworker who apparently really hates Plan B and birth control. But let me know what you think of this first episode of the Beyond the Pill podcast. We're going to be having many different videos out on the channel over time. Still kind of working through, the baby growing steps of this podcast and how we kind of want to do things. I might change up my background or go record outside or something, because like I said, I want it to be casual, but maybe not necessarily a mess. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. Be sure to subscribe and hit that bell. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video.